Wonderful artist, and I'm sure you see Anna Marie on Thursdays and Fridays every single week. It's always great to see her. Anna Marie, welcome.
Thanks, John.
And awesome. So, would you like to show some of your artwork?
Before I show the artwork, I would like everybody to take a moment and go ahead and get out their paints and start activating their paints and get out their paper and brushes so that when we're done chatting, we can work together, because I'd love to see what everybody else is creating today also.
It's awesome.
All right. So while you're preparing your paints, Ethel, if you want to go ahead and run the slideshow, and I'll introduce myself a little bit.
Okay.
I'm an international artist. I grew up half my life on a farm in the Midwest and the other half in the Middle East. So in Jordan, in Israel, and in no man's land between the West Bank and Israel. And after university, then I also was able to live and work in Taiwan, and then many years in Chickasaw Nation. Most recently, I have spent the last year in East Africa, in Tanzania. And as a professional artist, my passion is watercolor. Hello, that's why we're here. I'm so happy to celebrate and have this time together with you. This is my, Ethel would, okay. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube and my website, AnnaMarieSteffenson.com, and a little bit on Etsy, very small amount. Next page. That's the top of Tanzania, Taiwan. You're looking down over the clouds, and that. Let's go ahead and go to the next page. Thank you. Okay, so I have been working on a project of my mentor in Oklahoma. One of the men from figure drawing was I was trying to figure out how to improve my skill at portraits, and he said do 100. So I've been working on that. And when you look at a person through the screen, you only see pixels, but we know that humans are so much more than that. We have souls, and we have history and experiences and a future. And I feel gifted to be able to introduce you to people that you would have never otherwise had the chance to meet. And I feel like that's one of the gifts of having friends all over the world, right? Right here, just by sitting in this room with us, you're engaging with people all over the world. So I'd like to introduce you. This is Eunice. She is right near Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and beautiful middle-aged lady that sat for me for a portrait. Next photo. And, oh, okay, we put two of them together. This is Angel. She lives in Rwanda, and I'm really grateful to be able to introduce you to her. She was just finishing up university, and this is a little bit comical of a picture because Miss Angel is a very petite lady and I am a very tall lady. But I was so grateful that she sat for me and let me do her portrait and to get to know her and share her spirit with you. Next photo. Oh, this is Miriam. Miriam had such a beautiful smile. She is in Iringa, Tanzania, and that's in the very south part. And her smile just caught me, and I was able to photograph it and then work from the photograph to paint her and meet her child a little bit later. And she works and lives in Tanzania, in Iringa, Tanzania. I was so blessed to be able to meet her and get to know her. Next photo. All right, this is Mr. Saleo. He's a Maasai, and I loved seeing the detail on his ears, how he has body modification. I really enjoyed having the opportunity to paint that unique feature. And we had a lot of fun because we sat down and sketched each other. He's holding my sketch of him that we had worked through. He had sat for me for live sketching, as well as allowing me to photograph him and work from the photo. And then if you can see on the table, he also was sketching as we were working together, and he did a wild boar, and let's see, and another little portrait, which just, I feel like that's what we do as artists, is we bring the art in and everybody creates, and we can do it together. We can create together. Mr. Saleo didn't like his portrait very much. He wanted me to finish the top of his head. And I had to share with him in my very limited Swahili that it was the light, nuru, the light hitting his head. And that's why there wasn't a top to the head. So that was interesting, trying to discuss art with very limited vocabulary together. Thank you. Next. And here we are in the mountains of Iringa, and just bring the sketch, the opportunity to sketch just wherever you're at. We were eating, and while the rest of my family's eating, I sat there and painted the hills of Iringa. So I learned in Iringa at a national site that Pride Rock from The Lion King is actually a place. I had no idea. It's not exactly the same, but I thought that was interesting. And from this point that I'm sitting, you can look over the whole valley with mountains going up. You can look up and down the valley with mountains all along the ridge. It was a very special place to paint. Thank you. Next. And then this is what we're going to be working on today. These are live figure drawings, Miss Trinity and Mr. Zachary. And this is what we're going to be working on today with a live model, which is why I want you having your paints activated and ready to go. Especially yesterday in our conversation, Emily was talking about the terror of doing portraits, and I want to help challenge that and address that. So to the left, you can see Trinity. She is painted in a monochrome fashion, very simple, just light and dark, and very simple chromatically. And then on the right, we have Zachary. And what I'm focusing on here is connecting the light shapes and the dark shapes. So thinking of it in an abstract term, not just as a figure, not just as a story and a communication, but also in the abstraction of lights and darks put together and in an interesting form. Fun detail about Zachary. One time when he was modeling, I forgot to pay him. So about a month later, his brother was modeling for us. So I gave his modeling fee to his brother. And then about 6 weeks later, Zachary's modeling for us again. And I'm like, oh, did you get your money from your brother? And he's like, no, what do you mean? He never gave me that money. So I had to pay him twice and then give his brother a hard time for taking his money. That was fun. Next picture, please. This is Perla. She modeled just this month for us, and just beautiful essence. And I'm challenging you that you don't have to paint it all, and you can really keep it very, very simple. It doesn't need to be complex. And I feel that the more simple it is, the more powerful it can be. Next painting.
This is the last image that we've included here, Anna-Marie.
Okay. There were several gesture drawings, and that's what we're going to start with here. So thank you. Very good. All right, what we have now is with the gesture drawings, okay, there was one image that did not reach on. So I'm going to bring it onto the computer here. Here is the painting for Michelle, and she modeled for us just this month earlier. And I was so grateful for her modeling. She was very competent, and I would now like to introduce you to Miss Michelle. Yeah, come on. There you go. And she's our model for today. And okay, thank you. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing as artists. When we photograph when we photograph Michelle to paint from the source images, we're working through a single lens. When we paint we can also go through two lenses. So we have two eyes and we can work from a double lens. But I want to challenge you to paint from your heart. And your heart is multifaceted. It's not a single lens, it's not a double lens. With our hearts, we can perceive people as who they are. We can perceive so much more than what a lens can. With our eyes, we can see the wrapping paper of what our skin and outside looks like. But with our heart, we can perceive and then communicate and paint so much more. When I was a child, my mother had a bohemian crystal that was multifaceted, and the sun would hit the crystal and it would shatter the sunlight and make rainbows all over the floor. And I would sit in the rainbows and perceive the color and experience the light being distributed and separated. And I feel like this is what our hearts are. Our hearts are like the bohemian crystal that allows us to create more than just the lens. And sometimes that doesn't look pretty, and sometimes that doesn't look show worthy, but the experience is, the finished product of the painting is the second important thing. The first most important thing is the experience and sharing this moment with Michelle. And I get to share this moment with Michelle and my eldest son, who's off camera, being our videographer. Thank you. And then I also get to share this moment with you. And that makes this moment in time, even though time is fleeting, like water through the hands, that makes this time and moment together meaningful, and it makes it eternal. So thanks for spending this time together. If you want to go ahead and get out.
Anna Marie, I managed to put in the last three gesture sketches drawing in the PowerPoint slide. So let me share. These three, beginning with this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Two more.
Okay.
This.
And next one.
This.
There we go. So what we're going to do together is we're going to warm up together. And what you're looking at here is a gesture drawing. You can get it wrong, no problem. And all right, I'm going to welcome Michelle to the center floor. And do we have any questions before we start? Any thoughts? When you do, you're welcome to ask. I always appreciate hearing from you guys. All right. We have Michelle. And that very last image that we saw is painted on something that's called, I was introduced to this as magic paper, but it's an Oriental product that is for practicing calligraphy. I've been using it recently to warm up. It's used for practicing calligraphy so that you can paint 1,000 times over again without having to have more paper. And I have mine on a roll. And the very last image that was the gesture drawing was also done on magic paper. And I would encourage you to please get out your paints, get out your brush, your touch of water. And we're working here with Michelle. I'm going to have you step forward. Mr. Videographer, can I have you close where you belong? Hi. Thank you. Ethel, is there a way that I can see my second screen from this one?
Oh, sure. Let's put the top camera. So we have,
all right,
okay,
here we go.
Both cameras here.
All right, so I have my water and I have my magic paper. I want to encourage you to have your paint and picture. Okay. So Miss Michelle is going to, I'm kicking off my slippers here, my shoes. Okay, Miss Michelle is going to give us about 5 poses of 30 seconds each, and this is a warm-up. And I'm challenging you, and I'm going to ask you to show at the end to work also from the presentation that Michelle has. Just tell me when to switch. Okay, switch. Nice. Switch. Michelle's a great model. I always appreciate her work. She's coming up with these poses herself. I'm so glad. Okay. And switch. Michelle, if I asked you to do a few more, would that be comfortable? Do you think you could come up with a few more? Okay. So again, I want to encourage you as the artist to not be perfect. Thank you. Wow. I don't have a paper for that. I'm gonna shift my paper a little bit.
This one's the hardest to hold.
Oh, and I'm making you hold it the longest. Nature of it, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and take a few minute break. So this is magic paper right here, what you're looking at. And over in the next 3 minutes, this will evaporate and I'll be able to mark again. Oh, my videographer is telling me it takes a little longer than 3 minutes. It depends on how much water you have and humidity, just like watercolor. Would you be comfortable doing a 5-minute pose here?
Yeah.
And I will do that
Standing, just
maybe on the couch.
gotcha.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from our guests? All righty. I had my paper just off to the side here. And what we're going to do is a variation, and we're going to start going to color now. So I had already prepared my palette beforehand. These are colors from my dot card. And I have it organized by value. And the colors that I've chosen are colors that, again, the palette was originally chosen for portraiture. So all of the colors that I have within my palette work well with portraits. So we're going to start with the lightest value, which is the yellow, the Monte Sienna Natural, the Goethite, and we're going to start with that. And I can feel this brush is a little dry, so I'm going to have a touch more water. When you're creating paintings, it's important not just to look at your painting, but I appreciate taking a few moments and actually just looking at the model before beginning. Take a moment and just look at the angle of the crest of her cheek on her face. I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to catch the soul, not just the wrapping paper, but the soul of the person below, which is a high order. And again, keeping it loose. Giving yourself freedom to not do it with any pressure. Thinking about the composition of the whole image on the page. I can see I put too much water in my palette here, so I'm having to get more pigment on the brush. Allow me to introduce you to my neighbor's dogs. Their names are Molly and forget the other one's name. They're the sweetest dogs. Can you hear them online barking? Okay. So we're being pretty quick with the time limit on this. But it's worth noting that even with very limited time, you can relax into it. All right, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna block in the background because I had it done. And I always like to sign it first. Mr. Videographer, would you go get me a pencil? That's right on the other side. Right on the counter over there. So this is the nice thing about watercolor is I just got a drip there, but I can actually turn the paper. This is Michelle, our beautiful model. It's 8/2024. Catch that drip. So what I'm doing here is just blocking it in. Next step, what we're going to be doing is we are looking at how the light is hitting Michelle. So we got the form, we got it loose. Now we're looking at light. I'm not hearing anything from the computer. Can I have a confirmation that it's
You're saying.
okay? Very good.
Okay.
We're painting along, Anna.
Wonderful. That makes me happy. Maybe we need Gabriel here to ask me questions. Give me a hard time. Okay, so now the next step, what I'm looking at is I'm bringing in my Garnet Genuine, but really what I'm looking for is just a mid-tone. And I kind of have mud right in the middle of my palette. So I have a nice variety going from light to dark to blues with my goethites and my ochres and umbers. And I have right in the middle a mix of all of them so that it's called the mother, like in your vinegar, your apple cider vinegar. And this allows you to have more complex colors without just being two colors. Thank you. All right. You doing okay there? You're comfortable? Yeah. Okay. I'm studying the figure. I'm studying the way the light hits. I'm gonna test this pigment, see how it's sitting. Okay, I want it a little redder. I read a really nice thing from the Impressionists that the color's irrelevant if you get the value right. I appreciate that. I'm loading my brush quite heavily with pretty wet pigment because it's still interacting. The base is wet by itself. And I want to think of this as light hitting the form. I don't want to just think of it as light skin or dark pants. I want to think of it more about the light. Okay, now I'm going right back into the center. I have been working from the garnet here, and now I'm going back into the center to get the collection of all the pigments together. And now I want to hit it with a strong dark with the last value. So I'm going to pop a lot more of the blue in there. And this blue that I chose for this one is the ultramarine, because if I put the phthalo in there, the phthalo loses control pretty easily. It spreads and has just likes to dominate. So I put ultramarine in instead. And again, I'm looking at the model. Where do I want my contrast to be? Where do I want the attention to go? And now's the point for Michelle, I'd like you to keep your eye focus in one location. And I'm not going to start straight with the eyes because if the volume of the water in the brush is overwhelming, it'll burp or get too much water. Learning to control the pigment load, not the pigment load, the water load in your brush is one of the hardest skills in watercolor. And this is where practice is invaluable. Because this is the skill that you really only can learn by practicing. Our little thumb sticking out here. All right.
Somebody is
Yeah.
asking to close the camera to your pad, please.
Please repeat.
Can you do a closer view, please, from left? Yes. Somebody is asking to see much closer your painting. Yes.
There we go. So
Yes.
I want to make sure that we can see. Also, Michelle, is that better for you? So that the you guys can
I
also
think
see?
so.
I'm trying to be restrained and purposeful in the marks that I make because these ones are now dramatic against the fair background. And where I place the mark is where your eye will be led to. So let's have courage and let's start working in the beautiful face and the beautiful eyes. So I really like working from old people with wrinkles because when you start working with beautiful models like Michelle here, I find this very challenging to do. I don't often work from young models. Thanks for being here, Michelle. The light isn't quite sharp enough for that sharp, deep shadows. So this is going to be interesting, keeping it fairer, more fair. Okay, I'm gonna squint and look. I'm gonna go back to the garnet.
Anna, what kind of paper are you working on?
Sorry, I know the audio is from here. I work with a whole bunch of different papers, and I've not yet found one that I'm consistently happy with.
Okay.
Not even arches?
Confirmed. We can see we also have another artist here. So I'm evaluating my painting right now. And I'm trying to see Michelle in front of me. And the little that I know Michelle, I know she has a very sweet spirit, but I also know she's strong like nothing else. And I want to make sure that I can catch that and I can put my experience of this time together with Michelle on the paper. I hope you're doing well with your drawings that you guys are also experiencing. Mr. Cameraman, I would like you not reading while we're live. I have a reader. Now, this is an important part in the watercolor. I know if I keep working on it, I will destroy the thing. So I'm going to back off and let it be done. Thanks, Michelle. You want to take a few moment break? Okay, we
Anna?
will-
Oh. May I ask a question?
absolutely. Now's a great time because we are letting paper rest.
Yes, I was wondering, it's such a privilege to be working with a live model, and thank you for it. And I was wondering how often or what is the proportion for your do you ever paint from photographs? I know it's harder to catch the spirit, like you say, the heart of it, but do you ever maybe happen to do that, or you prefer just live models, even going out the street and just enjoy that?
Yeah, I
Yes.
prefer live models, and I'd rather get it wrong than get it perfect. I'd rather get it like have the experience instead of just like click and be gone. I'd rather have the experience of spending the time here with Michelle. And when you look at the work that I have on, I feel like the experience of the painting is completely different when it's worked from a photograph. It's emotively a whole different product than working from life. And this last year with being in Tanzania, I have not had the freedom to paint weekly figure drawings like what I was able to do in our previous home in Chickasaw Nation. And I've been really grateful for these last 5 months in the United States of being able to, where we've returned, that I've been able to be part of figure drawing again. So I prefer live models. And honestly, like this gentleman here, Hawkins, I met him at the grocery store and he was kind enough to let me take his photo. So yes, when I have to work from the photo, absolutely, I will use that. It's a tool, it's a resource, yes. But I want to also challenge you that we're not photocopy machines. We are more than that. And I want to challenge you to not imitate a camera only, right? It's a tool, but to also work from life. And sometimes that just means sitting at the mall and just sketching people as they walk by. Or there's always grandpas sitting at the mall that are really bored. I can sit there and sketch them. I have been working on doing the 100 portraits like my mentor recommended. And I decided that I wasn't learning fast enough and started deciding it was needed to be 1,000 portraits. So I am coming right up to 500 right now as we're speaking.
Wow.
And what that means is just getting anybody who will sit for you and over and over and over again. So I don't mean to pick on you, Belle, but I think our colleague here in the images, Miss Belle, has such a beautiful face, and I hope to paint her someday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna Marie, I'm enjoying this session very much, and I even have painted along, so you'll see it after. But the only
Wonderful.
problem is that the model is not so clear,
Thank you.
so we cannot see the model so well, but
Thank you.
we get an impression, so I'll show you later.
Good. Okay.
Anna Marie,
Yes.
I've lived places that it was easy to do life drawing. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I can go this place this week, or I can go this place this week. I mean, lots of choices. But where I am now, University of Texas is the only place that has life drawing classes, and they will do it like once every 8 months, open it up for the public. And so this has been so invigorating. Thank you so much, because the opportunity to do the life drawing has just not been like for the last 18 years for me. So yes.
I feel like, okay, and as we're speaking, I want you to prepare your next piece of paper. As we're speaking, get it ready, refresh your paints. I found with moving to Chickasaw Nation, that was my first time to have regular figure drawing. And the group that was there, it wasn't just about the act of drawing, it was also about the community and having that community that supports you around you and that nurtures you, and that if they had any flaw at all, it was that they were too nice. Or just never had an actual like critical critique. It was all nice critiques. So I want to encourage each of you to have and find that community around you. And honestly, sometimes that's right here in this space. Thank you, John Cogley, for creating this space that's wonderful for all of us so that we have our tribe of people and encouraging each other in our artwork.
You are so welcome.
So welcome here. Thanks for spending this time together with my videographer, our wonderful model, Michelle, and with me. It's really special to spend this time together. All right, we're getting our next piece of paper ready. We have Michelle, do we have another post? Yeah, Mr. Videographer, we would like you to prepare to be able to put your video as close as possible to Michelle as our model.
We're doing 20 minutes.
Well, let's do it about a 20-minute. Let's look at our time. Do we only have 15 minutes left? Am I reading that correct?
Yeah, 17 minutes.
Okay, we are going to do a 10-minute pose. Johan, would you watch the time for me? We're going to do a 10-minute pose. And then at the end, I would like to see your guys' work also. In the previous conversation, we were talking about that I was able to do with introducing my dot card and the dot colors. Okay, this image, Johan, can we get closer so that it's
Dotted.
Perhaps we can even lower this.
Yeah, I'm pretty short.
There we go. And we're going to frame it. There we go. Not quite. Can we scooch that pillow so it's below your body rather because the pillow is hiding you? And can we bring your feet a little closer so that we have less, it's too long in the screenshot.
Oh, I see.
There. And if you can look straight at that camera. Wow, that's a nice pose for me from my angle. That's a lot of fun to see. All right, so you can see I'm working from a slightly different angle from the rest of you. And the first thing I'm actually going to do with my paper is I'm going to wet the back of it so that I am working. This technique is called working alla prima. We are I'm still working on learning how to speak while I paint. Normally, I do not speak at all while I'm painting. Thanks for being patient with me. Okay. So I'm getting that whole big piece of paper wet on the back, and then we're going to flop it over and paint the other side. And what this does is it allows the paper to stretch so that it does not wrinkle as badly, because you can see I'm not taping any of this. Okay, and again, now I'm going to get the whole front wet, and we're actually going to start there we go. We're actually going to start with color. We're not even going to start with the underdrawing. So we're just going to put a whole big swatch of color. And thank you, Paul Walsh. He told me horizontal lines are really boring, so you want to do more than not just horizontal lines. And I'm mixing my colors. And this could be a pretty juicy mix because this is essentially getting your whole paper wet. And I can see I should have used a bigger brush than a 1-inch flat. The 1-inch flat is a little bit too small for the size of paper. And the size of paper that I'm working with is a 1/4 sheet. We're going to go ahead and put some blue in here. Is a 1/4 sheet. And these images that I'm making now are going into the brand ambassador competition with Gabriel Stockton in San Diego next month. So these will be available there. Okay. So basically what I've done is I've just prepared the board. It's wet and I'm looking at it. I'm looking using the light to see how it's moving, and it's having a nice glisten over the whole thing. This is a water-soluble pencil. And my angle will be slightly different from yours. Once again, I always appreciate my model. I always feel like I can never recreate what God's created, but I can be here and I can create. So I thank you again, Michelle. I always appreciate the models that work with us. The nice thing about watercolor is that you can take it anywhere, right? I'm sitting here and I'm moving my board around. I'm moving around the room. It goes anywhere, and I appreciate that. My first love was ceramics. Ceramics is not good for a mobile lifestyle.
Anna-Marie,
now-
I think you would like to hear this comment. Jane says you have succeeded if you can draw depth of emotion from a single dimension painting.
Can you say that again?
You have succeeded if you can draw depth of emotion from a single dimension painting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at my model and I'm looking at my paper. And before I make a mark, so I need to be careful for how the water's drying. But I want to do this simply. So I want to think. Relax. We'll get into it. Okay. I need a moment longer. I can see I'm struggling with the gesture of this. So I'm putting down my paper. I'm picking up a clean brush with water. Don't use paint on this thing. I'm just gonna work with Michelle.
Shortening,
Say your words again, Michelle.
foreshortening for
Right.
this pose.
So I'm using this moment to explore because I want to get this angle of her face beautiful and perfect.
Mm.
And I want to be able to hit it on the painting right, perfectly the first time. Because whatever you put down, that's what you got. I want it to be that. Okay. Now let's go to the paint. And again, I really appreciate some Japanese artists on this. Whatever you do is it's the right mark. And here's the time where I have to apologize to Michelle because I just gave her a very large nose. She has a beautiful, graceful neck, curving around, shoulder, bodice, other shoulder coming down with her graceful hands. Torso, let's see, torso. And I'm looking not just at what I'm creating, but I'm also looking at her body. And I want this to be a conversation back and forth. So I have her elbow here, and in the painting, her hips are above her elbow from my perspective. But I'm not sure that's what I want to, how I want to resolve that in the painting. I'm going to change it. All right. So now that was my water soluble pencil that I am using on a wet background. And now I'm going to go back to pigment. I'm going to, okay, so this brush is loaded with garnet and brown from previously. This brush is loaded with blue and brown from previous, and that was my water brush. So I'm going to start with, the darkest. I'm going to start with the dark blue. I'm loading my brush from my palette. So I'm actually gonna hit it right away straight with my darks. Have full courage with this. I'm blending in some nice mixtures so it's not a tube color, but so that it's a more mature color. And I'm looking at her, and generally she's very fair. So I'm looking, where do I want my darks? And honestly, there's not a lot of places I want the darks, actually at all. Put them here. And we're gonna move this. Catching those drips. Also tilt the board better. And the board itself is still very wet because we wet both we wet both the top and the bottom. So I'm actually going to shift the board maybe this way and paint upside down for a moment so that the drips aren't out of control. All right, now I'm not afraid to go into the body with the darks. This is interesting. At this point, I would normally lay my board flat because you can see it's dripping and I don't want to have that loss of control, but because I'm doing it on live, has a little bit more dynamics to that. Okay. And then it's also worth noting that the marks that you're making now do not need to coordinate perfectly with what you've already done. I want that a little darker. All right, now I'm gonna, so I've popped in the darkest darks. I'm gonna show it to you upside down because I want the drips to go the other way. So I popped in the darkest darks. I'm getting in basic compositional things. All right, now we're gonna go to midtones, which is the reds. And you often it's asked, when do you know if you're done? And I read a while ago that said, well, you know when you're done when you're about 80%. And I'm going to push that and say, I think it's better to be done when you're at about 40%. It is okay to let it be enough. All right, I'm going to be finishing up here. And I'm looking forward to seeing the examples of work from our colleagues. So if you want to go ahead and get your paint piece ready to share. Oh, and what hasn't been done yet is signing it. So again, this is Michelle. Date. All right. Very wet, still drippy. I don't often do drips because Michelle, if you'd be willing to stay still for the next 5 minutes while they finish. I don't often do drips because I feel like it's becoming a stereotype in watercolor, but this is what we have. Thank you.
It's really beautiful. It's gorgeous. Very gorgeous. Yes.
Thanks for spending this time to paint with me, for sharing this moment together, for being able to be in this moment together with Michelle, and I wish you all joy in your creative journey. Do we have anybody that has some paintings they'd
I
like to
see-
share?
I see James Page. Okay, there you go. Oops.
Wow, wow, wow.
Angela, Rick, and
online
some
we
more.
have
Let's put in.
a dozen people sharing their paintings at the same time, Michelle.
Where's Anna's?
Rick's.
Rick's is there. Anna's as well here. So,
James, you're on mute.
John. Who else? Let me see.
That's amazing. Look
Oh,
at that
that
good work.
Peter Johnson. Okay.
Is anybody else's painting still moving? Mine is still moving. Our watercolor is moving. To
Oh, more. We have Elise and Jim Beckley. Elise as
Is that
well.
Elise from olden times? It's good to see her.
Let me
Wonderful.
try. This is Jim's. I think Jim's. You have your background on Jim. The blur background.
You're right.
No. Let's see.
Wow,
is it?
look at the breadth of work we have. That's amazing. You can see the individuality and the personalities in all of them. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to challenge you to have the courage, each of you, to keep having the courage to keep creating. Beautiful.
Very nice.
There's the
Beautiful.
other one.
Anna Candela is
Anna
also
does.
sharing some gestures. Anybody else have gestures? Oh, beautiful.
Yes,
Wow.
Kathleen's. James is back.
After
Oh, this-
the recording, this is beautiful to see a variety of work coming from your time. Do we have any questions? Or anything else I can do for you?
This was
has
an
been a
amazing session.
beautiful, an amazing session. Thank you.
Thank you
Anna
so
Marie,
much,
there's
Anna
so
Marie.
many great comments in Facebook and in Zoom. You did so good.
Yeah.
Great painting, Anna Marie, and everybody.
This was
Wonderful.
a lot of fun.
Good.
was
It
All
should be fun.
stress-free work, and it was. Thank you, Anna Marie. Interesting.
Thank
No-
you.
No pressure, just quick.
I
Yeah.
want you guys to all have the freedom to create and the freedom to have that courage. And I'm glad,
Yes.
Praful, you pointed out how much fun it is, because this is fun. And it's
Very brave,
exciting and
Anna Marie.
terrifying all at the same
Very
time.
brave.
So much,
Wonderful.
Maria. You give so much.
Thank you.
And thank you,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
I want to
Bravo.
say thank you for spending the hour together. It's really a joy to have this community, and thanks for spending that hour, all of us together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you. Thank you.
Thank you to the model.
you.
Thank you.
To Michelle.
Thank you, Anna Marie.
Bye.
Thank you for sharing, everyone. Nice job.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.